everyone. Welcome tonight. I am here to welcome you to She. She builds, she owns, she invests. She is me and she is you. We are a dynamic group of driven women from all different backgrounds and walks of life who have joined forces to help each other create generational wealth, build meaningful relationships with other women, and attain personal, professional, and spiritual growth. It is our mission to empower and inspire our members to become more capable and successful individuals who give back to the community. We provide a safe and supportive space to learn, discuss, collaborate so that you feel empowered to take on the world. Woo! That was a fun one. All right. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Jasmine is in Florida at GrowthCon, so I'm doing a little of the two hats today. Welcome to She. She builds, she owns, she invests. We are live. We are recording and not live on Facebook, but maybe in a second, something exciting to do. We have a disclaimer. We do know that this is an educational Zoom call. We do not endorse anything that you hear. So please remember to do your own research and dive into anything. Do not take what we say to heart. Make sure you do your own research. We at Massive Capital partnered with Realty One. At Massive Capital, we have a diverse group of individuals, but also a diverse group of equity raisers. We have equity brokerage, property management, development, construction, and education. We are located in a variety of different states. We have a total of 175 million assets under management, and our partners in Realty One have 290 million assets under management. We wouldn't be here if we wouldn't have a shameless plug, like I like to talk about. We have two properties that we are advertising right now. We have one that we've closed, and we actually filled up all the spots today. So I'm very sorry if you were not able to make it into our Harris Ridge. Do not worry, because there's still another opportunity in Horizon. We are trying to build ourselves personally, professionally, and spiritually, but also to have that passive income. If passive income and financial freedom is why some of you might be here, check out our listing at Horizon. Candace, I will throw it to you.
Yes, I'm so excited to have a good friend of mine and tonight's speaker, Anna Morris. She is a clarity and confidence coach, deeply invested in people living a life they love. As a recovering people pleaser who didn't know what actually made her happy, Anna started discovering her trust selves in her 30s and loves helping other women do the same. It gets to be easy, and she teaches journaling, mindset, shifting, and self-care as a way to access your inner voice. So welcome tonight, Anna Morris.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I feel like you guys know me by now because we just put on like my anthem, and then I just closed my eyes and danced and pretended like you weren't there. Right? And because that's actually what life gets to be when we really tap into that inner self, that true voice, that like deep, deep knowing. We don't have to look outside for the buy-in, for the validation, for the, do you think so? Do you think I should do this? Which is really confusing because there's this thing called social media that tells us all the time that we should be checking in to see what other people are doing. And are we doing a good enough job? And blah, 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 blah. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And we already have that. We're women. Yeah. We already inherently determine our self-worth based on, am I a good daughter? Am I a good wife? Am I a good girlfriend? Am I a good mother? Am I a good friend? Am I a good colleague? Am I a good all of that? Mm-hmm. And the trick is to enjoy being with yourself without all of that stuff. So, yeah.
Well, like I said, I'm super excited to have you tonight. And Brooke and I are going to go back and forth and ask you a few questions that we've gotten ready for tonight. And the first question I wanted to ask is, how do you coach women, and what led you to your purpose? Because I know your story, but the rest of the community doesn't. So
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see from you guys. If you don't have your video on, that's okay. You can just like pop it in the chat or raise your hand. Has everyone always known who they are? Like what made you happy? Or did anybody like, yeah, hell no, heck no, sorry. Yeah, so that was really my path. And I think that's, yeah, yeah, exactly, Brooke. Yes. Me too. And as many of us do, and this is, if you look at like, if you get into astrology or anything like that, that's a sidebar. Yes, getting better. Love to hear that, Nicole. Around 28, 29, 30, women every 7 years like question what's going on, right? So if you look back, you're like, okay, 14, absolutely, 21, absolutely, 28, 100%. And, depending on your age, you can keep going from there. And I looked out at my life that on paper, I had more money than I have now. I had all the things that people told me would make me happy. And I was really unhappy, which is really bad news, right? Because when you have everything that makes you happy, then what do you do? Right. And around that time, I met somebody who I hired as a business coach. And then she Jedi mind tricked me into journaling. I was not somebody that liked journaling. She sold herself as an executive business coach, which is why I now say, like, I'm a journaling coach. Like, I'm not going to like Jedi mind trick people. But it worked for me because I hated journaling. And, it's the whole saying of like, what you resist persists. And there I was signing a contract on the dotted line that I would journal for 6 months and see what happened. And it was in that quiet time, it was 45 minutes every single morning, so 3 pages, that I got to safely play around with, well, this doesn't make me happy. What do I think might? Like almost like looking for the breadcrumbs, right? Can I remember a time when I felt happy? Can I remember a time that time kind of slipped away and I just felt like me? And I would assert, well, not assert, I know that we all have been in that place. I know 45 minutes, it is, I still do it. And I have 2 young kids. So I love it when people are like, I don't have time. I'm like, come to my house. You'll find out that you have time, right? But it's something happens in the last 10 minutes of the 45 minutes. So I don't mean to scare everybody by like leading with that, right? Something happens when you finally fatigue your to-do list, when you fatigue all of the things that you think you should be doing, or maybe you're not doing well enough. I personally can like really berate myself in the pages. And the reason that it's 45 is something happens in those last 10 minutes and God starts to show up. Or if you're not necessarily religious, that's fine. But like something beyond me started writing. That was like the parent I needed. That was like that unconditional love that I know as a parent, like we try to give our kids, and yet I'm still like, no, you need to be on time, right? Like, and something starts to happen that started to then shift my life. And the reason that I love journaling always as the first methodology is, unlike meditation, when you see it on paper, I guess you can't see the paper because it's all funny, right? When you see it on paper, you can't unsee it. When you say, like, I actually don't think I want to be married to this person, or I really don't like my job, then it starts to have you, hopefully, and certainly if you're working with a coach, which I was, it has you start to take an action, right? And it doesn't need to be some big, massive, I'm never suggesting that like people go and do something radical. But over the next 3 years, Candace, I essentially dismantled my whole life because it hadn't been built from me. It had been built as a way to look good. It has been built to make my parents happy, to make society happy, to do what I was supposed to do. So a lot of times I can come up against like, oh, I'm behind. Has anybody else felt like they're too late? They're behind? Yeah. right? Especially if you're getting into investing and like all of that. You're like, oh, like people think it's by a certain age you need to have done these things. And just that's not true. Like I had to go through all of that so I could teach what I teach now, right? Because I also know that as many great books as there are out there, we learn from experience. We learn when we can feel it in our bones. Like I can't tell you what this white shirt feels like. I love it so much. It's just my favorite shirt. I always wear it. Like you'll never know, but you'll know your version of that, right? And so that's what I coach. And that's how I started coaching. And then the rabbit hole is vast because I've been doing it 16 years now. So I've just got a whole bag of tricks.
a whole bag of tricks.
I think I'm still in the Easter mode. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I'll just add that caveat actually, Brooke, because I know that you have kids as well, right?
Yes.
How many do you have? A lot.
We're blended. So we have four. So I have a 16-year-old and 12-year-old, and then my husband brings a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old.
Okay. So I'm still in the really early stages, which is so perfect for my coaching career. And I appreciate them for this. My 4-year-old and my 2-year-old are not concerned with what I think they should be doing. And I mean, if
they don't care.
Right? No, they don't care at all, which shows me as a coach that gets put in over time. So when people say like, I don't know what makes me happy, I'm like, not true. That's not true. Let me show you Dean right now. He is 2 years old and he knows everything that makes him happy and he knows everything that doesn't. Right?
I love that.
4-year-old is starting to like.
We knew all that.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said, only if we as adults knew all that. Even as adults, some of the times we don't know what makes us happy because we grew up being told what should make us happy.
Right. So to answer your question, Candace, of like, what do I coach? I coach you back to your 4-year-old self.
Without the temper tantrums.
Well, no. You'll still have the temper tantrums. Don't kid yourself. I just tell you, you're not going to die from it. Oh, please. I had a temper tantrum earlier today. The whole thing about temper tantrums is like, you got to have them to move through them. I'm the biggest proponent as somebody that like used to shove my feelings down. I'm like, feel your feelings. Cause on the other side, we had a really big, we were starting into T-ball this year, 4-year-old, right? And there was this epic rainstorm when it was supposed to be like bright and sunshiny and warm, and it's freezing cold and raining, and he's hysterical, and there's poop everywhere because the little one had died. It was just like all the things, right? And I look up and there's this huge rainbow. And we just stopped. And I showed Jack, my 4-year-old, I was like, Jack, look, can we just stop for a minute and look at that rainbow? And yes, it is time to leave. Like, we don't need to play this game, right? And so it's about like coming back to the self that we always have been. And somewhere along the way, we forgot. And that's what I coach.
I love that. And you are also an investor, as many of the women here are or strive to be.
Yep.
So how does mindset, and we can talk about mindset and how it affects all facets of our life, but how does our mindset also affect our investments along with how we are making decisions in everyday life?
Well, I'll throw it back to you, Brooke, because I'm sure that a lot of deals pass your desk, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So the question becomes like, because I really believe that we always know. And I was thinking about this all day. I'm like, when I think about deals that we've done that have gone well, ones that haven't, right? And I would say that we are wired so differently than men.
Yes.
Right? In like a good way. And also the system's not set up for how we're wired.
No.
Right? To like trust our gut. And I don't know why, but I just know we should do this. Or I don't know why, but we should not do that. And so from an investing side, when you have those deals come across your desk, it's more than the numbers. It's who you're working with. It's who's going to be calling you. There are so many times that we have, clients that want to hire us because we have a design build company as well. And I'll tell my husband, I'm like, you need to understand, like, that person will call you at all times of the day. And are you going to sign up for that? And if you're not, are you going to manage that? Are you game to like coach this person on how to communicate with you? Because he's a middle child and he's a peacekeeper. And he has hid from me people that have bought houses from us that he gives his phone number to that call over like the sprinkler not working, like a year later, right? So it's really like investing. It's just we look at it holistically. So I'd love to know from you, like, how has that influenced you and what you've chosen to do or not do?
What it does is, so I am somebody that I look at the numbers, and I can put this back to us selling our house right now. And
Yeah, I was going to ask you about.
Yeah, because we had cash offers that were coming in,
Yeah,
and 20 grand plus over. And some of the people were very difficult from the jump to deal with. And then we had people that were a little bit less money and there was debt involved, but it was their
yep,
first home. And so it's like, you know what? I personally would rather deal with people that I may make a little less money, but
yep,
I enjoy the process with you. We're in the trenches together. And I think that's where men and women are very different, because men may only see the numbers, and be like, oh, well, here's the money aspect. But the women, I mean, my husband is on my side too. Like, you know what? That person's not going to be fun to work with. Let's lead with the cool people. Let's take less money. But
yep,
overall, most women are like, you know what? They'll see long term. They pay
yep.
attention to the details. I look at the body language. And y'all, if you sell your house or a property, do not go on the ring. I made a mistake of doing that. So then I'm prejudging these people and how they are. And then I
Yeah,
see them put in offers and like, I don't think I want to work with that person. I heard what they said over here. I shouldn't have done that. But
yeah,
that's what it looks like. I look at the people, I look at the partners, what's their ability to execute? Oh, I've met this person before. They're a pain. I don't want to work with them. So let's go with this deal, who is with these people who are such a pleasure. And we
yeah,
may only be getting a little less, 10-15% less of a profit, but I'm married to you for a few years. I want to have fun.
yeah,
So yeah, a little
yeah.
different.
And and that's the thing. We forget that we're in charge. We are always in charge of our experience. So if something is not working, you have the ability to shift the perspective. Absolutely, Brooke, and how we react to it 100%. I live 2 houses down from my mom, and she's got like a lot of worry around like taxes and things like that. And so she'll call me and then like try to have me like jump into all of her worry and concern about it. And I'm like, well, mom, what's this really about? And she was like, well, last year my dad has dementia, and they're separated. So it's complicated, right? And they live in different states. So it's a whole bunch of stuff. And there's a bunch of real estate. And so my mom was like, well, then last year and da 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 da. And I was like, whoa, I really get that like you've got this like past like pain that then you're putting in the future called anxiety, right? And then I'll ask her, how do you feel right now? And she was like, well, right now I'm gardening and I'm having a really nice time. I'm like, okay, great. So let's remember that like you're gardening right now. And Derek, who my husband manages for her. And let me just find out from Derek, like what's going on. And sure enough, Derek's like, yeah, of course. I talked to the tax office earlier today and it's already been handled. Right. But we're so hooked into how it was before that's going to be like that in the future. And then we wonder why our life looks exactly the same all the time.
Yeah, that's a great
So,
point. That's a great point. So how do you help women keep from self-sabotage? Because we like what we do because it's comfortable and it's certain, right? Like one
well,
of
it's
the
familiar.
yeah,
It's
yeah, we know what we're gonna get. And even if it's not a good outcome or a bad habit or whatever, right? It's comfortable and it's certain and we know, right?
people will mostly not even be on a call like this, and certainly wouldn't take an action unless one of two things happens. Either like you get sick, right? It'll force your hand, something will force your hand, or bankruptcy, or like something that's traumatic, right? Or one of my favorites is you start getting angry. Like anger, like I had a client earlier today say, like, I'm just really tired. And I'm like, okay, like I'll play with you. Like maybe you're tired. And she's like, I mean, I'm just exhausted. And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, and I'm just disappointed. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And I'm like, and maybe a little bit angry. She's like, I'm actually effing pissed. And I was like, there we go. Except the reason to work with a coach, whether it's me or anybody, right? Therapist, anybody, is that we mostly aren't taught that that's safe. And if we can just lean into how we are actually feeling and look at it and let ourselves feel it, it goes much faster, right? The rainbow can show up only when there's the huge thunderstorm, right? So I'll give you the example, Candace, of like, how do you stop self-sabotaging? It's all in awareness. It is always in the awareness, which is why I love starting my day with journaling, because and that's why I start with it and I don't end with it, because I need to rebuild the highway. I've got a highway going nowhere. Well, not nowhere. I mean, I know exactly where it goes. It goes to like a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of worry, right? And then if I'm like, hey, we're going to rebuild an 8-lane highway, you're like, absolutely not. We're not going to do that. But it's going to take time. Yeah. And so what I did before this call, in the past, I would always be like, oh, I need to prepare and have my notes and all of that. And because I could feel myself getting hooked on like, it needs to be a certain way, right? Like I need to like show up a certain way and blah, 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 blah. I mean, I have a corporate background that tells me to do it a certain way. And I was like, I think I actually need to go for a walk. I heard a bird chirp and I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so nice. And then like, it's nice and cool in Texas right now. And like, there's this really nice breeze. And so I was like, I'm actually just going to walk the dogs. So I take the dogs on a walk, and a very good friend just passed. Today's Tuesday, on Monday, yesterday. And his house is just right over there. And I found myself on his front doorstep crying. I did not expect that, right? And I'm just weeping. And he's got he's my mom's best friend. I've known him my whole entire life. They were born on the same day. He's like, right? Like and there were these gorgeous wind chimes, and they don't normally chime because they're so, so, so heavy. And this chime just went crazy, right? Yeah. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just weeping. And I came home and I took a bath because my little voice was like, just take a bath.
It's my fave.
Yeah. But like I took a bath at 5:30. Like, who do I think I am? The Queen of Sheba? And the answer is yes, I am. I am for myself the Queen of effing Sheba. And I'm going to take a bath. And no, I don't need my hair done. I can slick it back. I don't need to prove anything. And so it's that awareness, Candace. And the more we allow ourselves to let that little voice lead, there's just not as much of like the hustle and the work that we think has to be done.
Right.
If we can just tune in.
Right.
That's so true. Like, I love that. And all of that sounds fantastic, but how do you become receptive? How do you know when you are self-sabotaging and
Okay,
when
great.
it's too late, now you have the results? So how can you catch that?
You have to stop and feel what it feels like in your body. And this is where like the yoga and meditation teacher will always come out at me, right? So I just talked about like my mom, right? She's got it was a phone call from Stacy in whatever tax office. And she's not very friendly. So like already everyone's on edge, right? With Stacy. And and I was like, Mom, what's this really about? And she was like, well, you remember. And like the tone changed, and like I could feel it in my heart. I could actually feel it start to beat in my body like it's mine. Right. Now the taxes didn't get paid for like a year and a half. She still didn't go to, it's like not a big deal. I'm married to an accountant. So I'm like, I don't think anything is a big deal. I'm like, he's just seen, and his mom handled a tax office for 37 years. I'm like, oh, like, should we just declare bankruptcy? That sounds good. Like, I'm just not attached to all that stuff. Like, I just know everything can work out. And that really goes to like faith, right? But the way that is you start to pay attention to how it feels in your body. I could feel when you are saying things like, oh, I should, blah, 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 blah. Whoo, right there. You use the word should, there it is. Another one of my favorites that I'm always catching is, I don't know. We say it all the time. It is a default for a lot of people. And that is just not true. We always know. You might have some layers on top, right? There might be some excavating to do, but we mostly know and we're scared. Or we mostly know, or we don't have, yeah, okay. What did you say about this? Or we don't have the mental energy to explain it. I don't know. Yeah. Also, you think you have to explain it. You don't. You don't. You don't have to explain it.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I feel like women, myself especially, I feel like I'm constantly having to prove myself and show the receipts and explain things. And as I get older, I'm like, Brooke, you really don't have to justify any of my answers. I'm a grown ass woman. I can make my own decisions. I pay my own bills. Like, why do I feel the need to justify my worth? And it's not to everybody. It's usually to people that I really like or I look up to or something, and I might want to partner with. And so I'm like, oh, look. And then I'm feeling like I'm having to sell myself more. I don't want to have to do that, but I understand. I'm with you.
Well, the thing is, Brooke, like, not to go too deep, but like I will a little bit, is that something in the past, it's probably a parent, it's always a parent, you had to do that dance with. I had to do that dance with my dad, right? Like, I did the dance, and I didn't just do the dance for myself. I did it for my mom and for my sister, who were scared of him. So go. Like, I'm constantly thinking I have to justify. Oh, you're muted, Brooke.
Well, it's probably better that I stay muted, because sometimes people say them like, yeah.
Love it. I love the enthusiasm.
And essentially I did. You said something and I was like, yeah, go.
Yeah.
So I would have messed you up probably.
But see, the thing is, like, when we are feeling like we need to prove or explain or justify, there's something off in us that thinks we're not worth it.
Right. And I know Candace has another question,
but
please. I want to piggyback really quick before I forget, because you did just throw out there that you were a yoga coach. And right. And so because we talk about personally, professionally, spiritually, etc., I shared my story when we were speaking with you about how spiritual yoga was, and everything that you've spoken about, I feel that it comes out in yoga. And so many people have an opinion on yoga, whatever it is, but it's very spiritual, you guys. And if you could elaborate on that, because I told them at one point, I had all these thoughts in my head. I had a lot of stress going on, unanswered questions. And one of the first times I did power vinyasa and I was doing yoga, even though I was sweating so much, you couldn't see me crying, but it was such a spiritual thing. And then I was like crying, downward dog. Nobody can see me crying. Okay, good. Yeah. Like, it was just ridiculous. Can you help or explain what you said to me about how yoga and how spiritual it is and how it helps with some of our self-sabotage or proving ourselves? Because it gave me great clarity, and it was weird, but it's great.
No, I love it. So, and I also want to catch, Maria had said something in the chat too. I just want to make sure that I don't lose that.
Would be a better way to respond.
Maria, say, what do you mean a better way to respond? I won't forget what you said.
Instead of saying, I don't know, what's a better way?
I'm not sure yet. You have to look at what the truth is, because the I don't know is like, I'm not ready to look at that yet, might be an answer. I'm trying to think of like situations that I actually have in my life. Like my husband and I are always like, we moved to a small town, we're renting our house, it works for right now. And we're always like, where are we going next? And we'll say things like, I don't know. And I'm like, I think we do, but it hasn't shown up yet.
Right.
Because that's more power. That's got I have the power. When I say I don't know, I'm telling the universe, not only do I not know, but I also don't have faith in us. I don't have faith that you're gonna bring the magic.
Yeah.
And like, I am here for a magical experience. That's what I'm here for.
Right.
So I'm interested in having everything that I do come from a place of like power and love. So I might not know right now, but I know I'm on the road to discovery. So it's really, Maria, to answer your question, and I haven't forgotten, Brooke, about the yoga question. It's about like softening our edges.
Yes.
It's just about softening our edges, right? Like this,
Softening
I don't
it.
know. Like you just want to consider, like, do I really not know? And this is why journaling is so much my best friend. Because if I say, and I wrote the other day, I was like, I don't actually know what I want to do in this situation. And then I'll write, well, are you sure about that? And what if you did know? Like you could just try, it's like trying on different outfits. Like what if you did know? What might it look like? You can just actually like play. And it's a great place to just like, you're just like exploring. I think of my journal as a place to like write the screenplay of my life. And I'm like, ooh, that feels good. But like, ooh, I'm going to tweak that. And there needs to be some editing on this, you know? Yeah. And so, Brooke, to your point, not only did I hate journaling, I mostly hated yoga, which is hilarious. But again, what you resist persist. And it wasn't until I found a teacher that really said the things that I needed to hear. And at that point, I was working with a coach. And he said the things that a coach that I was working with said. And for some reason, like that all of a sudden clicked, right? So, yoga in and of itself is union. It's preparing the body and the mind for meditation. That's it. If you get a good workout or you feel a certain way, that's nice. But all that it's intended to do was to prepare the yogis to go and sit in a cave for days on end, Indian style, without eating. That's essentially, yes, yoga is union. So it's about bringing this crazy monkey mind, which is like so helpful sometimes. And would you also agree, like not helpful sometimes?
Right.
Like mostly, right? It's about like calming it down, because it's either living in the past called a whole bunch of pain, or it's living in the future called anxiety and worry. And that's not happening. Right now, we're just on a Zoom call having a great time. That's it. But how many people are worried about what they're making for dinner, or do they have what they need, or are they getting takeout, and do they have enough money, and blah, 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 and this deal, and what's still left on the to-do list, and why are the kids yelling, and I thought my husband was gonna, right?
Yeah. Or
No one's
taxes are
even,
due in so
yeah,
many days.
yeah. Like no one's even here. No
Where's my
one's here,
K1?
right? No one's here. That's why I can go take a bath, because like,
I am with you, sister. I am with
because
you.
people
And
are just like tuned
yeah.
in. And that's, I want to bring that home with investing.
Mhm.
So money is currency, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So currency, can we agree, comes from what word?
Current.
Current, right?
Yes.
Current. Yes. Brooke, you're muted, but yes. Um, current. And what's current? Energy.
Yes.
That's it.
Mhm.
That's it. Money is energy. You get it, you give it away. You get it, it goes out again. right? It's about being in the dance of it. Same thing when you're working with people. It's not about the money. It's about like how it's feeling being in their energy, right? Matthew McConaughey, not the greatest actor in the world. I mean, he won an Oscar. Like, he did a great job in Dallas Buyers Club. However, don't you want to hang out with him?
Yes.
Doesn't everybody want to hang with that guy? Because he's having a great time. Enthusiasm, the word enthusiasm means to be with God. Enthusiasm as the root word from the Greeks, to be with God.
Yeah.
So if you're painting and it's feeling good, keep painting. If you're gardening, it's all of those things. That's when you're like, oh, I definitely want to do that deal. Or you might not know what the next deal is, but you'll be like, I just feel like I need to call Brooke. Like, I reached out randomly to a girlfriend of mine that I haven't talked to in 10 years. I was like, I just got a hit that I'm supposed to call Lindsay Bell. And I did. And she's about to have her fourth baby. I remember when she couldn't have her first baby. So she's got that handled, right? And she lives in Dallas. And we're so happy to be reconnected. And I have no idea what's coming, but I'm also looking for a nanny. And oh, by the way, she has a nanny business, right? You want to call that an accident?
Yeah.
I don't.
No. Yeah. No. It never is. It never is. No. And I think when you start going through this process that you help coach people on, a lot of that stuff starts to happen, or maybe it has been happening and you're just now realizing that it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always describe Candace as like, I'm like a bird up in the tree. And there are lots of squirrels and everybody's looking for nuts. And I can like literally see where they are. But you have to like look up to the bird in the tree and be like, hey, I wonder if they like know where the nuts are. And that's when you like consider working with a coach, right? Like, I'm always working in a coaching program with a coach because like I want to collapse time. I'm interested in moving with velocity because I do not believe that things need to be hard or take a long time. I just don't believe it.
Right. No, I agree. And I know you have a little exercise for us that we're going to do in a breakout room, glimmer versus triggers. But before we get to that, that'll give Maria a little bit of time to put the rooms together. My final question before we do this exercise is, how do we align our hearts with our professions? Because a lot of us are doing it all, and we want to be passionate in what we do every day because we're trading time for something, and we want to make sure we're passionate about our professions.
Okay, can you say the question one more time from the beginning?
How we align our hearts with our profession and what we actually do.
So it really boils down to one thing. If you don't inherently believe that that's possible, then it doesn't matter, right? You'll always be a mismatch, right? So when I hired my first coach, I was a pharmaceutical sales rep, and I thought that I hated my job until I worked with this coach, and she was like, wait a minute, so you like make like high six figures, you have a car in Manhattan, you have an expense account that's easy six figures that you don't have to answer to anybody about, and you work like 15 hours a week. I was like, yeah, it's awful. I have no passion for it, and blah, 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 blah. And she was like, go get a passion then. So I started a business on the side, as a wellness consultant with a yoga and meditation certification. And then I took all of those doctors and then built a business with them selling supplements and Eastern medicine and all these. Yeah. So I think, Candace, that we can sometimes be looking at the lens called like, this thing that I'm getting money for has to be my passion.
Right.
And we forget, and like, I'm careful to not like have somebody throw the baby out with the bathwater. Right.
Right. Which
like
I've done.
Yeah, we've done. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, I built that business for 4 years on the side. I loved it. And I was like, every time they're like, don't you want to get promoted? I'm like, no, I want you to lay me off. Like, put me on the list. I'm done here. And it took like 4 years of me saying that in every review. Right. I was like, because I want a big check from you. So I'm just going to keep doing my own thing because, like, this is a good gig.
Right.
And so I think that we, um, in our quest for passion, can forget that, like, what we also have that pays the bills can be, we can bring that passion to,
Right.
right? As we discover and uncover the 2 and 4 year old self that I'm watching with my boys. Like, what I do right now, I was doing at 4 years old. I would set up classrooms and coach people and give them homework. And I
Right.
did that like as a young child. And then I do like self-care summits where I get like a bunch of other coaches and leaders together. I also did that in the form of like dance recitals and musicals and things like that. So I look back at like me as a kid is exactly my profession now. But it took me 10 years to get to that point, right? Where my money was lining up with that passion.
Right.
And so when you stair step it, that can actually feel safer because our body doesn't sometimes know that how fast we're growing is safe. It can feel like a tiger is actually running after you, right?
Right.
So we have to signal, and this is the yoga teacher me, we have to signal to our nervous system that we're safe. And that's the exercise we're going to do.
Great. That was a great lead in because
I know. I've done.
I, yeah. So I'm so excited to do this exercise. So,
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so can I go ahead and set it up, Maria, and then we'll do okay, good. Okay, so everybody grab a notebook. I'm sure you have them, or if you don't, you can grab your phone, whatever works, right? Okay, let's see what people are saying. Oh, I love that. Rakshanda, she said, how about this? My job or what I do is a sponsor for my dreams. Yes, 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 yes. I love this artist, Mari. She's in New York, and she is like a very big deal artist now. She does like lettering stuff, and she was a barista forever. And when people ask her, like, do you like, oh my gosh, you're like a paid for your art. This is amazing. This is like every artist's dream. She's like, it's lonely.
yeah.
So because she used to like light people's day up. Like, who doesn't love the person that gives you a coffee in the morning? They're like literally my favorite person in the whole world. Mm-hmm. And so she got for 6 hours every day, like all this energy from people like loving her.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's the energy that I'm talking about. So like we can bring that to every part of our life, including like the time for money, right? Mm-hmm. We bring that energy. That's when the deal comes in. That's when the like things start to shift.
Right.
Okay. So this is what we're going to do. You guys are going to write down, we're going to do a distinction, glimmers versus triggers. So we'll start with triggers because triggers are super obvious, right? I just described it with my mom calling, right? You might write on your trigger, my mom calling, right? But like you see maybe something, an envelope in the mail from the IRS, go, right? So just think of like a couple of things that trigger you, right? And as you're writing those things that trigger you, I want you to also write, like, how does it feel in your body? Like, tight? Do you get sweaty? Does your heart start racing? Clammy, like clammy hands, maybe? Do you feel like you can't breathe? It's like actually describe the body sensations. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears. Raise a hand if you got triggers down. You're like, yeah, I know exactly, like triggers, like, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. So the flip of it that we mostly don't look for are glimmers, right? So you can Google this. It's not just something that I've made up. But I find it very, very helpful to go back to Brooke's question of like, how do you triggers in yourself or in ourselves or others, things that trigger you, Rakshanda, things that trigger you, right? I mean, they're universal triggers, right? Like guns. I mean, like hearing a gunshot, I think is triggering for anybody. So the flip of it though is glimmers. And these are the things that literally remind our nervous system, if you're looking at it from a scientific standpoint, that we're safe. But we have such cortisol spiking through our bodies that we live in perpetual and false fear. So by paying attention to glimmers, you can start to relax your nervous system and remember that you're safe. So glimmers are like this. I have a 2-year-old. He's got blonde curly hair. Like when he sleeps on me and the way that his curls feel is a glimmer, right? Lightning bugs in the summertime. I don't know if you guys ever caught lightning bugs, but like lightning bugs, that rainbow after the rainstorm at the T-ball game that was so miserable, that was totally a glimmer, right? So I want you to start writing down, and they're usually early childhood memories. You might feel it now, but I want you to look back. Like there's a certain smell that smells like kids playing, and I remember like being at my grandmother's house playing with my cousins.
This one's actually easier for me.
Good. That's great. That's so good. Yeah. So I want you guys to write those down, right? Like I'll never forget a client said to me, like, it was like a cool hallway in her grandmother's house who lived in Louisiana. So like everything was always like really hot and humid. And so there was this like cool breeze in the hallway. Yeah, the smell of dirt after it downpoured. Yes, yes. So a lot of times it's like scent. It could be sight. Like I really love like the sand between my toes. That's totally one. The smell of dirt, such a heart. Yep. You're in Louisiana. I love that. Okay, good. So just
All
write
right.
your numbers.
So
And
we
then
are gonna head to a breakout room,
perfect.
and I want to hear everyone's glimmers because one thing that you share might be something that someone else will
Yeah.
find in their own heart too. So please share if you have one, share it, or maybe you'll hear one from someone else. So we'll take a really quick breakout room, and then we will come back.
And also share what it feels like in your body.
Yes,
Right.
two things: what it is and what it feels like. All right.
Okay. You want to go first, Maria?
Well, we're not in a breakout room.
Oh, I didn't know who's Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
I don't know if she didn't join her room yet. So I don't know if Rachel's here or if she
Okay.
is joining,
Okay.
but
No, but
we'll
I
give
want
it
to
like 2 or 3 minutes.
go. Glimmer.
Glimmer.
Mhm.
Um, for me, it's freshly cut grass.
Oh, yeah.
And it just makes me feel like a time when I was actually just really, really happy playing outside. And I I married a landscaper. This is our
Yes.
landscape business.
That's what I'm talking about. There's
It
no
happens
accident.
all the time.
You have to share that. Please, you have to share that.
Every day I get this number.
Because does he smell like fresh cut grass?
All the time. All
All
the
right.
time.
See, there you go.
And
This
some
is
days are bigger than others. I'm like, it's gonna be a good day. Good night.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine
Well,
is
thanks so much for coming. But yes, tell me yours. Tell me one of yours.
mine is like sticky popsicles. Yeah, like my kids were just eating popsicles earlier, and Derek was like, "Popsicles, huh?" And I was like, I just always feel good about popsicles. I give them to them in the bathtub. I give them to them in the pool. Like, I don't care. There's something about popsicles that's like so nostalgic. I don't actually eat popsicles, but I'm not getting in the float. I'm with you. I get it.
It's just not my
Wait,
thing.
Melissa was talking.
I'm
Melissa Santana.
sorry. I'm
Dang it.
sorry.
Go ahead. Y'all get to hear us finish our thought. Melissa, as you were saying, okay, now we're all eyes on
No,
you.
it's fine.
It's not fine. I want to hear it.
No, so
Melissa, glimmer and how it makes you feel.
yeah, so glimmer, I posted on the chat the smell of dirt and the ground after it rains. It just reminds me of, now it comes full circle and we're able to categorize it, but it's grounding, right? But as a child, you don't know that you're grounding.
Yeah.
And so it felt so good to be outside, especially if it was raining. Your parents were like, no, you can't go outside. You're gonna get a cold. So it
Yeah.
was like that freedom, like finally we get out and you're able to liberate all those pent up emotions and you get to ground with the earth, but you don't realize that that's what you're doing. You just remember the smell. So,
Oh, that's so good. I love that you just brought in grounding because that's like,
Huge.
that's the best.
Go, Gary,
but try explaining that to a 4-year-old.
Ready? Go.
So I've been teaching my 4-year-old breath work. And he's
we
like,
do breath work too with the fingers in, out, with all 10 fingers, and it's so good.
I love that.
And
I
Brenda,
like
did you want to say something?
Yes, so there's a word for that smell that everybody keeps saying. It's called petrichor because I always love like how that smell. And looked it up, and the word is petrichor.
You're gonna have to write that in the chat, please.
Say that
We
3
learn
times
something
real
new every
fast.
day.
Yeah.
Thank
That
you,
is
Brenda.
Well,
awesome.
I was
Maria, will
sharing.
you? Yes, please.
Yeah,
You have to.
I was gonna say, I was sharing that for me, a glimmer is fresh cut grass. It brings me back to when I was a child, kind of like you, Melissa. It is a grounding scent, and my husband is actually a landscaper. So it like kind of all comes full circle when I think about what my glimmer is and what my
You
husband
like married
does.
glimmer.
You
Like,
attracted
I did.
your
your
land.
glimmer.
I mean, that's like, and I hate cutting grass, which is so funny.
Yeah. See, that's
See?
the thing. That's why I'm like, I promise you guys, like,
Yep.
like you don't always know that it's linked, right?
No.
But when you said that, Maria, then you were like, my husband's a landscaper. Stop. Like,
Did
you
you
can't
always
make it
know that,
up.
Maria?
No.
Did you always know that? Or you just all of a sudden have an epiphany?
Yeah, like 2 minutes ago.
That's crazy.
It's our
That's awesome.
subconscious.
Well, Maria, we're at the top of the hour.
I know.
Oh,
I
my
want to
bad.
share real quick, just with everyone. We do have what's called a hackathon this weekend, April 5th. It is a mix of hacking and marathon, therefore hackathon. I didn't know the words and now I do. So if you want to just hack multifamily in one day about buying multifamily, this is the event for you. If you want to connect with us, we want to connect with you. We want to see you here every week, but we also want to make sure we're meeting with you at our brunches, at our in-person events. So please connect with us. We have a QR code that takes us to our WhatsApp group, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We do not want to miss an opportunity to connect with you. Our next speaker is the Sharon Lechter. Now, if any of you've heard her speak, you know that her tagline is assets are sexy. And if you want to learn about Sharon Lechter and her assets, or her sexy assets, you do not want to miss 2 weeks from today. We will be talking to Sharon. We have she merch, shirts, hats, mugs, and you name it, it's there, and you need to have one, because if you're not repping she, then I mean, what are you doing with your life? QR code right there. Take the opportunity to buy some she merch. We love it. It's amazing. And thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for sharing this opportunity with us. I hope you learned something. You can take something away, and maybe, just maybe, you will journal for 45 minutes tomorrow. So thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Candace.
I also want to give Anna an opportunity, because I know she has a wonderful coaching 7-day challenge thing.
Oh, yeah.
So
Thank
tell us a
you.
little bit about that. Yes.
Well,
tell us a little
And
bit
it's in
about
our
that.
QR code.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it is a QR code. So, Maria, to piggyback off of what you just said about like maybe you'll journal for 45 minutes, I promise you, you won't. Nobody does.
Okay, good. Because I wasn't going.
Not even people that pay me to help them do it. So, like, don't worry, you
Okay.
won't, and that's okay. But if you want to start moving in that direction, in the direction of really trusting yourself, and not just trusting yourself, but then lining up your actions with that trust. I have a 7-day mini course that I offer. It starts this Sunday. It's called Trust Yourself, super easy. And it just helps you get that clarity and confidence. And it builds into something else. It's an 8-week program. And you can go to my website and find out more about that. But I think Trust Yourself is a natural place to start because it really builds the foundation of journaling and knowing yourself.
And if you want to learn more about Anna, our fabulous, fabulous guest, please click her QR code. She has some amazing content. Her socials are there, and you should be following her because I have learned so much just from following you on social media.
Thanks. And I do, yeah, so I just put my website in the chat. Okay.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for spending your evening with us. We will see you again in 2 weeks. And don't forget to join our WhatsApp group so we can talk to you all the time and about how we build, own, and invest. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much. That was really fun, guys.